If you grew up playing Mario Kart 64, you probably remember more than just the races. You remember the wacky AI during Grand Prix mode, those epic battles with 4 friends crowded around a TV, or if you're like me, just wandering off to explore random spots, like this train tunnel, or this waterfall shortcut on Koopa Troopa Beach. And if you did spend as much time exploring as I did, you probably remember a few of those harder to reach item boxes, like the one floating out of this blimp on Luigi's Raceway, or the one above this big rock with this huge ramp leading up to it on Koopa Troopa Beach. A lot of players say that these gave better rewards. Some say it was a guaranteed blue shell. And some players believe that every item box in Mario Kart 64 uses the same logic, and it's your position that decides your item pool. And a bunch of you reminded me of that in the comments in my last video. I'll drop a link in the description if you want to dive into that debate. So today we're going to test this. I'll break down how item boxes actually work in Mario Kart 64, hit those harder to reach ones, and share the results. So we can go back and see if Mario Kart 64 really has secret item boxes, or find out if this memory is just one big Mandela effect. The results actually may surprise you. So let's get into it.
Let's go!
Because Mario Kart 64 was so competitive with friends and family, I would just go out of my way to discover any little edge to win. Like mastering this Wario Stadium shortcut. Yeah, I was that guy.
I'm a Wario. I'm gonna win.
As we all know, the strategic and clever use of items was one of the clearest ways to get an advantage. So my thought is that developers put these hard to reach item boxes in the game as a bit of a risk-reward mechanic to give skilled players a little bit of an edge and a leg up on the competition. That's what I remembered at least. But before we test the theory of secret item boxes, let's first talk about how item boxes actually work in the game. And warning, this is my basic dumbed down version of research. If anyone out there knows the deeper technical side of this, feel free to jump in down in the comments. So when you hit an item box, the game doesn't necessarily care where the item box is. It cares about what place you're in. If you're in the lead, you'll mostly get stuff to defend yourself, like bananas, green shells, these decoy item boxes, or a single mushroom. Drop back a few spots and you start seeing better items like triple shells or stars. And when you're near the back, that's when the game starts giving you the good stuff, like lightning and blue shells, as a catch-up mechanic to help you retake the lead. You actually can't get a star, lightning, or blue shell when you're in first. Those are reserved for the races that are further behind. But also because of timing, sometimes you hit a box in second and you move into first and boom, you have a star or something better. I remember back in the day actually doing this and thinking I broke the system, and I think this is where the memory gets a bit foggy for everybody. So for the most part, every box follows the same logic. The higher place you are, the smaller the pool gets. The further back you are, the better items you get. So this is true for most item boxes in the game, but it brings me back to my original question. Are there special or hard-coded item boxes in the game? So where are these boxes? Let's start with the first one in the very first level of the game, Luigi's Raceway. In this track, you have this blimp that goes up and down, and you can only start seeing it going up and down when you're on the second lap of this track. And trying to time it when you're in first place feels near impossible. Believe me, I tried this a lot. You need perfect speed, you need to go off into the grass and back in to avoid these item boxes just before it. And honestly, it feels like it requires a little luck, especially when you're in a fast-paced race. Then there's the one on this big rock on Koopa Troopa Beach. This is the one that's most memorable to me because it's this giant ramp leading up to it. And you have to drive up the ramp and time the jump just perfect to get this one. And again, as a kid, I swore both of these gave better items. A blue shell every single time. And honestly, it kind of makes sense. Why else would the developers put them in these hard to reach places? And to see if my memory was failing me, I actually ran a poll on my channel and it was pretty split. Almost half of you said that it was a blue shell every time, and the other half said it was your place that determined your item. So clearly this isn't just my memory, it's a shared one with a lot of you out there. And this all made me want to figure out exactly what's happening here. So with everybody split on this, I had to find out for myself. Are these boxes really special, or is this all one big memory glitch? So let's jump into the lab and do some experimenting. So my experiment and the testing is pretty simple. I loaded up Mario Kart 64, I played through Grand Prix mode, and I decided to hit the same 2 boxes over and over again. The Luigi Raceway blimp, and the one on top of the rock on Koopa Troopa Beach. I ran a trial 15 times on each, and most of the time I was in first. Sometimes I was in second and third just to mix my results, just to see if the front position mattered at all. I also ran a few tests in multiplayer, leaving the other racers sitting at the starting line, so that way I could focus on hitting those boxes clean and not have to worry so much about the wacky AI and their crazy catch-up mechanics. And again, I hit each box about 15 times, and I wrote it down on a piece of paper near me. I wasn't using any mods or emulation tricks, this is just my straight old school gameplay. I realize this process isn't exactly extremely scientific, so think of it as my version of a field study. And yeah, if you're wondering, I definitely felt a little ridiculous doing this over and over again. I felt more like a lab tech versus a player just having fun with these old games. But hey, for science, right? So I'll finally shut up so we can dive into the results. I started on Luigi's Raceway with the box floating under the blimp, and every time I was in first place, guess what happened? Blue shell. 15 runs, 15 blue shells, no matter what I did. And like I mentioned before, sometimes I bumped myself back to second and third. Again, always a blue shell. So I consider this one case closed here. And I gotta admit, I did feel a little redeemed because a lot of people lit me up in the comment section of my last video. But as you can see here, even in multiplayer, I'm clearly in first, and I just sat under this blimp for a little bit, and I kept getting blue shells over and over again. And yeah, I did a lot of testing here. I wanted to be absolutely sure that you always did get a blue shell. I'm not gonna lie though, it did get kind of lonely in multiplayer here. It made me want to call up my childhood friends to come over for some local multiplayer. But then I moved over to Koopa Troopa Beach, that box sitting on top of the rock near the finish line. Same deal, 15 more tries, and again, every single one of them came out as a blue shell. And getting the shell in first place had me asking the question over and over again, what good is a shell in first place? And if you really think about it, it gives you kind of first place protection. If you hold this blue shell here, no one can shoot items at you, and you can actually swerve into people and knock them with the blue shell, and you don't even lose it. So it's a very, very solid mechanic and item to let you hold and maintain first place. I started to realize that it was definitely worth it to go after these hidden item boxes back in the day. But in the end, it turns out that no memory was right or wrong. I think memories can just be foggy a little bit. Yes, item boxes in general had some randomness to it, and the place you were in definitely impacted the item you got. But there were hard-coded, special, harder-to-reach blue shell item boxes in the game. Everyone who swore those boxes were special, they actually are. It's not a Mandela effect, it's real. I encourage everyone to try it for themselves. And if I'm wrong, please let me hear it in the comments. And look, this is me doing my own little test. I'm no expert here, I'm no data miner, I fully admit that. I'm just a guy who had to confirm my memories of the past here. I'm also someone that loves to just explore these old memories and talk about them with you. And I had a ton of fun running this experiment, so if there are other game mysteries like this or myths that you want me to prove, let me know, because I would definitely be down to do more. And it's fun to confirm these because it proves to me that there is magic in these games from this era, even if you're discovering it decades later. I feel like these games have a lot of just empty spaces and random areas that leaves room for the imagination to run wild, but also a couple secrets in the game for us to truly find. And I remember being a kid, and when you found these secrets, it felt like you were the first one to ever find them. You'd find one, share it with your friends, they go looking for their own secrets, share it back with you, and then suddenly these legendary game myths, they get born. Those stories that spread through hallways, aim chats, sleepovers, until they became part of the game themselves, whether they were real or not. That, for me, is what makes coming back to these games so much fun. It's not really about proving or disproving these old rumors. It's about realizing that some of these memories were actually true. We weren't just imagining it. We really did find hidden things in the game. Because back then, games gave you just enough room to explore and let your imagination run wild. And sometimes, the devs really did put a secret in there for you to find. And if you went for the special item boxes in Mario Kart 64, you probably had a hidden save of your own. This was mine. This is Hidden Saves, a channel about unlocking old memories and figuring out why some games just stuck with us. If this one unlocks something for you, feel free to hit subscribe or drop a comment, and let me know what forgotten memory we should dig up next. Catch you in the next one.